the, 90% of people who don't have a genetic link, I leaned into my journalism background and I just started to research everything that I could and read and speak to experts. And I learned, Sharon, and as you well know too, it is what we put in, on, and around our body that affects our overall well-being, that turns on or off certain genes or cancer cells that are already maybe living in our body, which most of us do have.
Yeah.
But it's our the epigenetics of it all, right? The study of human behavior and how it affects your overall health. So are your lifestyle behaviors turning those genes on or off? Are you overweight? Are you drinking too much? Are you eating foods that are really non-foods and deficient of nutrients? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are raising your cortisol levels, that stress hormone, because they're creating stress in your environment?
Yes.
Are you cleaning with products that are bringing toxins into your home as you think you're getting the toxins out by cleaning? And what are you putting on your body, from your makeup to your lotions and so on? I
Yeah.
changed it all, but not overnight. Small, manageable steps, one little step at a time.
I love that you're stating that because I think that I don't know about you, but once we get some sort of a diagnosis, no matter what it is, that we automatically just want to eradicate immediately. And it sends us into an even greater state of panic and survival, which then isn't healthy for us because, like you said, the cortisol and the whole adrenal system and all of the chemicals that we're releasing in our body aren't necessarily healthy, which continues to ignite the markers that are already there in our body. So the fact that, once you received that diagnosis, you started working in all of those different areas, all of those different pillars of health, and you identified what those pillars were, and then said, okay, one small step at a time, we're going to get there. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Thrive with Sharon Podcast. And as always, every single week that we have these interviews, I am more and more excited about these conversations. And today I have the one and only Samantha Harris, who is the former co-host from Dancing with the Stars. And we know her as a public figure as well as a celebrity. And she herself has had an incredible journey and reinvention and transformation of self. And I can't wait to dig into that conversation with Samantha. But first, I want to welcome you, Samantha, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day. This is just really, for me, a dream come true to be able to have this conversation because I like we were talking before we started, so much is parallel in our own experiences. And that says to me that there's actually that many more people out there who are going to resonate with your experience and what you've done to go from surviving to thriving now. So welcome and thank you so much for being here.
It's so nice to be with you. First of all, I could talk with you for hours. You guys, we were talking before we started recording, and I was like, "Wait, we should probably do this thing too because you and I can talk for hours." So this is a lot of fun, and it is. I am truly thriving, and it's as I'll dig into my story, I'm really an open book when it comes to my breast cancer diagnosis and how it affected my private life, my personal life, my health, and then also pivoted my entire career from TV host to certified health coach, and something I would have never seen coming. But I call myself, when people are saying, "Oh, you had breast cancer, so you're a breast cancer survivor," I said, "No, I'm a breast cancer thriver," and that's how I think of myself.
And so it is. And so it is. I mean, I absolutely love that. And I love that reframe because I think that it's really important for us as part of our own healing journey. And, you tell me what you think, but that we don't necessarily kind of label ourselves as that kind of surviving aspect, right? Because when we stay in that surviving aspect, that means that on some way, energetically or physically or psychologically or subconsciously, we're actually agreeing to having that thing continue to reside within us. So tell me what your thoughts are on that, not wanting to identify with survivor and going to thriver.
No, I think that's such a perfect. And you articulated that so beautifully. And that was something I had to learn, right? I didn't know about, I didn't know about so many things. I didn't know that our brain and what we thought affects how we feel inside and how our overall health can be, right? Even the studies that have been done on breast cancer survivors who are going through active treatment, who are going through, all the things in the recovery that I had gone through as well, that those who had a better prognosis for surviving and thriving and a lower mortality rate, a lot of it came down to their mindset. And I didn't understand. I kind of knew, I'd heard about that, but I didn't really understand how powerful that can be. And I'll give you an example. So I started to understand it was really important to change our mindset and change the dialogue within ourselves. Positive self-talk was one of the tools that I implemented after being riddled with anxiety that I had never had in my entire life after my diagnosis. It felt so horrible. And for a couple of weeks, I physically felt this kinetic vibration it felt like I was feeling my blood course through my veins at hyperspeed. And it felt awful, and the elephant on the chest and the whole thing. And I knew I had a long journey ahead of me. And I'll get into my journey if anyone wants to know, because I think it's an important message in terms of how important it is to take care of your health and be your own best advocate, listen to your inner voice and noticing changes. But what I realized is that this frenetic energy felt terrible, and I didn't want to feel this way. And so I took an active approach to changing how I was going to deal with all of it. And I said, you know what? I can't feel this way. So I'm going to look at everything that comes next with a positive attitude. I'm a happy-go-lucky person, and cancer just struck that down. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not going to let you do that to me, cancer.
I think that your energy is unparalleled, really, quite honestly. So when you say happy-go-lucky, like you are on every level, like every cell in your body is like giggling, it's just like this beautiful, bright effervescence personality. And I absolutely love that. But I want to go back to something that you said, because I would love to magnify this a little bit, which is taking it into your own hands, really taking control. And so for me, what I'm hearing, which is something that I know that I did in my own personal journey as well, which is not even just like the positive mindset, which is so important, but also really using discernment and critical thinking when you place yourself into the hands of all of the medical professionals as well, right? So are you also referring to that? And tell me more about that too.
Yeah, so I was about to turn 40. My girls were 3 and 6, and my dad died of colon cancer at 50. His mom lived to 95, but was a breast cancer survivor. And I said, I should get a mammogram. I guess you set a baseline. I'm really healthy right now. And it came back clear. It's what we'd expected. But 11 days after the clear mammogram results, I was changing after a workout, and I found a lump. And, it's one of those things, the sports bra is so tight, you start moving things around. And I wasn't doing monthly self-breast exams. So important, by the way. And thank goodness I was someone who exercised daily, and I thought I ate the right way. I've changed that completely, but I thought I was eating healthfully. And so I was more aware of my body, and I noticed that this change was a change. Despite a clear mammogram, saw my OBGYN. She said it was nothing. Again, not thinking it's cancer, had a clear mammogram, went to see my internist a month later, nothing. So he says, and 4 months later, the pesky lump is still there. And that's when sometimes we just have to get really quiet within ourselves to listen to the whispers of our inner voice. And I finally said, wow, you're not only whispering now, you're screaming at me to go see someone who is a specialist, who looks at breasts every day, who knows if or what it might be. And so it was because of that and multiple diagnostic tests that also, by the way, didn't even detect the cancer until after I had a lumpectomy. And the results came back finally that, oh yeah, just kidding. It's invasive ductal carcinoma in situ. And by the way, after your mastectomy, we found out it also went to a lymph node. So you're not stage 1, you're stage 2. And dealing with all of that, but so grateful that I listened to my voice.
Yes. Yeah. And so that voice, I call it our intuition. And the intuition, like you said, it's like a whisper. And you have to be quiet in order to hear that. And I wonder what your thoughts are on the fact that our lives get to be really noisy, and it's hard. It's hard to find those moments to be quiet.
It
Um,
is. It is. And I think, look, between the constant dinging of our cell phones to the rat race of work to if you're a parent racing your kids around and juggling their schedules, there is so much. And what ends up happening, especially for women, and not that this doesn't happen for men, but we are caregivers, we are jugglers, we are multitaskers. We also put ourselves at the bottom of that to-do list all the time. So self-care gets pushed aside as something that's a luxury. It's I have to make time for it, but then I'm being selfish because I have all these other things to do. And what I've come to realize post cancer is that self-care is selfless. It is, the put your mask on before assisting others on the airplane. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not going to be here long enough to take care of others. And so for me, that means being dedicated about working out because that's my sanity. It's my holy place.
yeah.
It's good for, obviously on a multitude of levels. And then how I'm nourishing myself, saying I'm going to buy the higher quality, the organic, putting nutrient dense foods into my body that I didn't understand before. I thought it was all about eating cheeseless pizza and skinless chicken breasts. That's what I thought was healthy. Oh, and low fat snack wells. That was also on the healthy list for me back then.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that takes us back to like the early Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig days, right? Where it was just like, oh, well, you just eat low fat and then you'll lose weight. Right.
Right.
Which we know that that's not necessarily true, but it's all part of the journey of awareness and understanding. And the fact that you at least allowed that space within your own life and within your own health journey to allow for the unknown, but to at least know that even though you're not seeing anything directly in front of you, and actually you've had quite the contrary, you had somebody say, no, you're good. You're just like, no, this just isn't feeling right. It's not sitting right with me. There's something different here. And we don't necessarily have to then make it worst case scenario, but we can at least honor the intuition and say, I'm going to look into this. I'm not going to stop until I can find my greater state of health, which kind of leads us into the next piece, at least in my mind, which is, I love the name of your book. Your Healthiest Healthy, because to me, what part of that says, and also your group and your program and everything that you stand for now, which is like, be your best self, be your healthiest healthy. And that doesn't necessarily mean measuring it by anybody else's state of healthy, but just really what is your own, because for me, part of the wounding of my own personal journey was the fact that I was always measuring myself to somebody else's state of health, whatever somebody else dictated to me, whatever that state of health was supposed to be, or how I was supposed to get there. And I kept hitting a wall, and it wasn't working for me. So having a lot of paradoxical type responses to things like foods and medications and healthcare and all of that stuff, where it might have helped the majority, it wasn't necessarily helping me. So I love the fact that like there's grace in just how you've decided to kind of put this new movement out into the world, and that it's one that you're kind of living within. So can you take me to the transition of then like, okay, the diagnosis, and then like how you were able to really find your way into your healthiest healthy?
Yes, absolutely. And sorry no, by the way, nobody calls me on our home phone except for solicitors. So I don't even answer the phone, and I forget that because it barely rings. Of course, it happens during Zooms.
Of course.
There's usually, shockingly though, my dog is sleeping instead of barking. So that we can just say thank you for that.
Thank you.
He's at my feet. He's cozily asleep. So first of all, and the name of the book came from, I thought I was healthy. Right? I got this diagnosis, but I thought I was healthy. I thought I was eating the right foods. I thought I was working out for the right reasons. I thought I was surrounding myself with the right types of people. I was Lysoling and Cloroxing my house so my kids didn't have one bit of dirt, not realizing what toxins they were putting into their bodies, thinking I was doing the right thing. So what I realized is I needed to reach my healthiest healthy. So just going back for a second to my dad and my grandmother both being cancer survivors, or well, not my dad, unfortunately, but having cancer. I assumed my breast cancer was genetic. I mean, right? I had two people in my family that were close relatives having cancer. So I'm a national ambassador for Susan G. Komen, and the research they do is profound. And I learned that, 1 in 8 women, 1 in 8 will receive an invasive breast cancer diagnosis over the course of her lifetime.
Wow.
But Sharon, the crazier part, and this is what really hit me hard, only 5 to 10% of those are genetic. So I had no hereditary link. I did that. I mean, of all the genetic tests, and there are a lot of them now that are known, I had no genetic link to my cancer. And it baffled me. I remember actually, I'm not, in retrospect, disappointed that I'm BRCA negative. Thank goodness I'm not. That means my kids aren't at 80% chance of risk of female cancers. But when they called and said I was negative, which was just the first battery of tests, and then we went beyond that, I almost found like only because I wanted an answer, and that would have given me like, oh, well, that's why I'm doing everything else right, but I just was no chance to control it. So when I was given the opposite of that, as you're one of the 90% of people who don't have a genetic link, I leaned into my journalism background and I just started to research everything that I could and read and speak to experts, and I learned, Sharon, as you well know too, it is what we put in, on, around our body that affects our overall well-being, that turns on or off certain genes or cancer cells that are already maybe living in our body, which most of us do have. But it's the epigenetics of it all, right? The study of human behavior and how it affects your overall health. So are your lifestyle behaviors turning those genes on or off? Are you overweight? Are you drinking too much? Are you eating foods that are really non-foods and deficient of nutrients? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are raising your cortisol levels, that stress hormone, because they're creating stress in your environment? Yes. Are you cleaning with products that are bringing toxins into your home as you think you're getting the toxins out by cleaning? And what are you putting on your body, from your makeup to your lotions and so on? So I changed it all, but not overnight. Small, manageable steps, one little step at a time.
I love that you're stating that, because I think that, I don't know about you, but once we get some sort of a diagnosis, no matter what it is, that we automatically just want to like eradicate immediately. And it sends us into an even greater state of panic and survival, which then isn't healthy for us, because like you said, the cortisol and the whole adrenal system, and all of the chemicals that we're releasing in our body aren't necessarily healthy, which continues to ignite the markers that are already there in our body. So the fact that, once you received that diagnosis, you started working in all of those different areas, all of those different pillars of health, and you identified what those pillars were, and then said, okay, one small step at a time, we're going to get there.
And one small step at a time, whether I'm talking with my private coaching clients for health coaching or my Your Healthiest Healthy membership community, it is about your healthiest healthy. So just because my first step was changing my deodorant, and then changing my foundation, and then adding in, more organic, and, that was the path for my healthiest healthy that worked. But for your healthiest healthy, it might be a totally different change, one step at a time. And that's why, as you mentioned earlier, it's about your healthiest healthy. What works for you, because what works for me might not work for you and the next person, and so on. And I feel like there's so many gurus in the health space with a lot of conflicting information. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, was because I wanted to just have an action plan of, okay, here are some steps you can take. I'm not going to tell you what you have to do. I'm going to give you information and you decide what works for you. And there's at least some agreement across the board that a plant-based whole foods foundation, whether when we're just talking about the nutritional pillar, whether you want to be keto or vegan or paleo or whatever it is, having a lot of veggies is really key. and nuts and seeds and all the other plant-based, base is really important. But if there's so much conflicting information and it gets overwhelming, and so we have to figure out too, if I don't eat red meat, but your body might really need a couple ounces of red meat a week to up your iron and get you to feel amazing, right? It depends on the
Mhm.
person. And sometimes it's trial and error, and that's the frustrating part. We just want someone to say, "Here, do
Yeah.
that."
Yeah, absolutely. Because that, from the psychological perspective, overwhelm is one of the ways that we stay paralyzed, right?
Mm.
So we might even be aware, we might be conscious of something, but then we start to dig into the options and we become overwhelmed. So then we don't make any changes at all,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And I've seen that time and time again with a lot of people. And when we, so I talk, people sometimes think this is funny, but I talk a lot about lowering the bar. I think we live in a society where it's all about set the bar high, strive for excellence, whether it's your career or the husband or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever you want, whatever it is, strive high, aim high, reach for the stars. And I kind of flip that on its head and I say, okay, I want you to set the bar low. So I have a client who I'm just so incredibly proud of. I've been working with her for almost a year and a half. And when we started, she's she's morbidly obese. She didn't exercise at all. She
Mhm.
would sit on the couch. She would, drive in the car, but there was no movement. And I said, I want you. Well, first of all, I didn't say I want. You have to ask, what do you feel is attainable for you? What is realistic? And so what we agreed to for her was twice a week, moving for 5 minutes. That
Mhm.
was it. Set the bar low because we have to achieve, we have to feel that accomplishment.
Yeah,
And if you get to 5 minutes and you're like, I'm feeling amazing, I'm going for 7 today, awesome. But at least you've accomplished what you set your goal to be. Okay,
right.
so now I'm just going to flash forward. The weight hasn't dropped as we thought, but there's a lot of other stuff going on.
Sure.
However, she's exercising 6 days a week for 45 minutes to an hour, and she
Wow.
feels so much better. And I could not be more proud because all of those things, besides, weight isn't the only barometer for health. It's an
Oh,
important one, but it's not the only one. And she feels amazing. She's accomplishing more. All of that.
yeah, and I love that you bring that up. And again, like I'm not like you advocating for individuals to kind of go on the other side and just be okay with being excessively overweight and thinking that that's okay. But it's really all about the other measures that we put into place. So, are we exercising? Are we mentally and emotionally allowing ourselves to process these emotions? And we this is our instrument, right? And so just like there's every living thing is shaped and looks a little bit differently and has a different function, right? So are we as human beings, right? So no one is meant to look exactly the same or weigh exactly the same as the other or whatever. But it's really all about what we allow to flow through and to and beyond us that I think is the most important piece, in realizing that we have a say in what is the incoming and what we allow to metabolize within ourselves. And then we also have a responsibility for what we're putting out. Right. So what I'm hearing about your client, which is incredible, is the fact that you really took the extra time to not just help to heal yourself, but say, okay, this worked for me, but I'm smart enough to know that part of my journey is that I've learned it's not a one size fits all package. And so I need to really educate myself on all of the potential possibilities to be able to help to support somebody where they are.
Right. And that's what the important thing is. You, as everyone who's listening assesses sort of where they are in their life, we all know what we need to do to be healthier, how we need to eat, how we need to act, we need to surround ourselves with. And sometimes we have different hurdles and challenges that are standing in the way. And so sometimes it does take having someone like Sharon work with you or someone like me where you have a guide, right? Someone who's just sort of holding you accountable, helping you assess and really tap into that deeper layer of how to make that change happen. And you said sometimes that fear paralyzes us and keeps us in that space where we don't make the change. And sometimes just being part of a larger community, right? Whether it's, there's so many on, on Facebook and online and different things. Obviously, I have my Your Healthiest Healthy community. So being part of a community of like-minded people who are all trying to get to that, to their own version of that place. And then knowing that you have that support is key.
Support and connection. I think more than ever, we're realizing that that's what we're all here for. Right. Mm-hmm. And to your point, we were talking about this before we started recording, that to really surround ourselves with people who are like-minded. And that doesn't mean same-minded. It means like-minded, right? Where at least we all know that at some point we're on a personal growth journey, we're on a health and healing journey. And when we surround ourselves with those individuals, it really creates this greater space for others to heal. And conversely, sometimes we don't always realize, and at least for me in my experience, is we don't always necessarily know that we're surrounded by very limiting beliefs and a lot of toxic and unhealthy systems, So we have family systems, we have community systems, we have medical science systems, we have, so on and so on. We can just keep spiraling it out. And so by realizing that we have our own autonomy and sovereignty, we can really place ourselves where we can most flourish and thrive. And so finding that right community for you is important, which is why I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, that there's multiple, right? Because it's whatever someone else may need, and they may not need it. They may need it and find that that's their home for many, 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 many years. And maybe they find that that's like what they needed for 6 months and are ready for the next, right? Just like working with somebody like you or me. Sometimes it might be a year-long or multi-year long relationships. And sometimes it's, just a short period of time to just kind of fill in the holes of what you needed and be like, oh, okay. Right. So that's the thing that I just, when we first met and we were talking and you were discussing a lot of the resources and the services that you provide, I was like, yes, I really like that, because it's this open vessel for others to come and take what they need and have someone with them who is able to greet them where they are with not a lot of judgment. Of course, it's wonderful that you are who you are. But being who you are, you really did all of those deep dives within yourself first. So you know firsthand what it feels like to go through that transformation, what it feels like to realize that, what you thought you were doing, the road to best intentions, right, aren't necessarily the road to the best health, right? Yeah. And so you understand kind of what that moment is like, where you're looking at the collateral damage of things being misaligned, right? So, I'm wondering though, for you, what would you say if you were to want to send a message out to anyone? And, I have a lot of listeners who are going through their own personal health journeys, as well as healing and transformation journeys. What would you say you would want them to know most? If you were to be talking and whispering right into their soul, what would it be?
I think that we are more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And so when it comes to health specifically, even, right, in this example, my dad had cancer. We grow up in a world where we think, oh, well, cancer runs in my family, I'm going to get it too. Oh, my dad had diabetes, or my mom had heart disease, so I'm inevitably gonna get that as well. And when we give up our power, we give up control. And we have the ability to control more than we realize, especially when it comes to our health, but also when it comes to our outcomes, whether it's our career or our personal, intimate life, right? And when we give up our power and we're waiting for things to either happen to us or come at us, rather than say, all right, I'm going to control what I can control. So I know earlier offline, you had said, hey, what were some of the tools that worked for you when you were going through this and you're learning to change from from having had this experience of cancer to thriving. So when I started to flip my perspective and have that positive mindset that I had to, by the way, even though I was a positive person, I still had to develop a positive mindset. That was something that was new to me. So the tools that help me the most, and these can apply to everyone who's listening in a multitude of ways. First of all, positive self-talk is a really powerful tool, right? It, again, taps into changing your mindset. Affirmations are similar in that, right? So the I am or I have statements, whether we believe it or not. So I had a mantra that I finally, once I realized, okay, mindfulness is important and being self-aware, okay, I need to have a mantra. What's my mantra? And it was, I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm cancer-free. And I used that for about 6 months. And then it started to dawn on me that every time I say I'm cancer-free, it reminds me that I had cancer. So I changed it. And my mantra since then, and I'm now 7.5 years out, is I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm strong. And even at the time where I didn't believe I was cancer-free or that I was healthy and strong, the more I said it, the more I believed it. So positive self-talk was key. Affirmations help with that, but also saying, okay, what's positive in the situation? Well, we caught it early. I have good health insurance. What else is positive? A great support system. I have, and otherwise I'm in great health from working out all the time, right? So that sort of self-talk is very powerful. The other two that help me the most, the other tools, are the idea of control what you can control and worry when you have to. So I couldn't control at this point that I had cancer. Right now, I'm looking to control not having a recurrence or not getting heart disease or type 2 diabetes or all the other autoimmune disorders that come our way. But at the time, I couldn't control that I had cancer. But what could I control? I could control my effort, my attitude, and my action. So how was I going to reframe things? And the worry when you have to worry. During COVID, I lost a few more pounds. I wasn't looking to lose weight. I'm probably too skinny now, as some people will say. My body's where it really wants to be. But in that, the lymph nodes in my groin became really prominent. And all of a sudden I went, of course, because when you had cancer once, anything that goes wrong, I have cancer, God forbid. So my mind went there, but I said, okay, I have to worry when I have to worry. Right now, I'm going to take action. I can control that. I can set an appointment with doctors. I can get scans. And I did. And I went through all of that. Diagnostics, by the way, thank goodness, came back. Everything looks great. I just skinny. So I just have really, really showy. My lymph nodes just want to show off a lot. They're like, hey,
yeah, come on, yeah.
So, but the point is that every time I would start to feel that worry build up, I'd say, wait, I'm right now, as of today, there is no diagnosis of something terrible. If I have a diagnosis, I can worry then, but let's not worry now. And that also can be really profound and helpful as a tool.
Completely profound. I love all of the tools that you shared, but I think that, like you've highlighted, having that positive mindset is super important. And that doesn't mean bypassing, right? It doesn't mean not acknowledging some of these areas of growth that we might need to really look at taking some actionable steps, like you had said. But it really means that you can believe, and you are going to visualize what it is like to be fully healthy and healed, right? Because when you allow yourself, in my opinion, and in my own practice, the more I allow myself to envision and to imagine, right, what it feels like energetically, physically, all of the senses, to be in that healthy, fully aligned space, all of a sudden it creates so much more clarity with where you are in your present being, and know kind of, you get the roadmap, right? You automatically get the roadmap. So I don't know about you, but I was a real big dreamer when I was younger, which really helped that ability to work with the mind and the positive mindset and intuition. But was that a big challenge for you? Because I know that, like you said, you're just like a born journalist, right? So that a lot of that has to do with like concrete information and historical information. So like, how was that for you?
I mean, I too, by the way, as a kid, I was a total dreamer, big dreams. And I loved it. I'd go to bed every night, creating the dream in my mind what I wanted of my future, and then fall asleep to that. So it's interesting. I never thought of that, but that may have helped to, in this part of my life. So, let's see, sorry, what the other part of that question was what? Sorry, I realize. I'm getting no, now my Alexa's talking to me, my phone is ringing. Hey, I'm having a conversation over here, Alexa. Don't you hear me having the conversation? I'm talking to somebody right now. Anyway, our Android AI beings become another member of the family, right?
It's so true. I know. Alexis and Siri, they start talking to you and chiming in when they're not even invited.
It's true. The TV will say something and she'll start going off. I'm like, I love that we call them she's, the series. And yep. Because they have the female voice. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. As I totally distracted us off topic. Did I even answer what you just asked?
Yeah, we were just talking about just the beauty of having imagination and dreaming, allowing yourself to dream, and how that can really feed into your greater state of health and be a guide map for some of the things that are within you, or that you may want to reach towards or let go of. Right?
Right. I think one of the questions that I always ask my private health coaching clients that I know has been really helpful to them is, if you were to wake up tomorrow and you jump out of bed as the healthiest, most energized version of yourself ever, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And what does it enable you to do that maybe you aren't able to do now? And so, like you said, it's putting that, I think, all right, our playful mind, that wonderful fantasy world that our kids live in. As we grow older, we lose that and we shut that out, but it's still there. And we just have to sometimes actively tap into it, because when we can feel it and we can see it and we can understand how that's going to affect our lives in all of those different ways that I just mentioned, it can really be a powerful changing agent for you.
100%. And, I work with many different spiritual teachers. I'm a mystic, I'm a spiritualist. And so one of the things that I think that historically that we've learned is that we've really been working towards promoting this very logical and very, just concrete scientific brain for a long time, measuring things like math and science. And we promote all of those things. I mean, for the longest time, we've been losing the arts in school, and we've realized how much that wasn't valued. But the other aspect in using all of the hemispheres of our brain is so important. And so now more than ever, I think everybody needs to start to access that part of our brain that we really did lose, to your point, like from when we were younger until our adulthood, we were almost being programmed out of using that. But really, we need that. We need that to thrive. Well, I mean, this has been such a wonderful conversation, and I know that hopefully you'll come back and join me again. I can't wait to be able to continue to talk about all of the things that you're doing out in the world, but just wanted to kind of sum up some of the ways that you are working out in the communities now. So you've mentioned you're providing one-on-one health coaching to clients.
Yes.
You have a monthly subscription group as well.
Healthiest Healthy. Right. Yeah. So I have just a small number of private clients, but really my goal is to be able to reach many more people, and also at a possibly, so not everybody can afford private coaching. And so that I didn't want that to be a barrier, right? Money shouldn't be a barrier to being able to have support and the information and the guidance to be able to reach our best health. So I launched Your Healthiest Healthy community, which is, as you said, a subscription-based membership. It's every week I offer a live coaching session, a live guest expert that's been specially curated, and a live workout, because I'm also certified not just as a health coach, but for many years as a trainer as well, pre my Dancing with the Stars days and everything, my earlier life in LA, always teaching group fitness and all that. So I love doing that. And then we do monthly challenges. So right now we're in the middle of a 14-day deconstructing cravings challenge. We might have a 5-day plant-based dinner challenge or smoothie challenge. So lots of different fun and giveaways. So it's building that community. And then a lot of the community members are coming on my Your Healthiest Healthy retreat, which is in Utah. But you don't have to be a member to come on the retreat. It's November 11th to the 14th. We still have some space available. And if you guys want to know more, just DM me on Instagram at Samantha Harris TV. I'm really active on Instagram.
Yes, you are. I love all of your posts on Instagram. And I'm so excited about this retreat too. I looked into it, it sounds absolutely amazing. And you're really providing such an amazing experiential, transformational process, and also a way for people to really allow themselves to be poured into, which, like we were talking about, especially as women, we really do have the need to allow ourselves to be poured into more and more, because we've really, whether it's by having children or a really demanding career or family or whatever it is, we are here to kind of rewrite the way that we are showing up in the world, and that we are showing up for ourselves, and we create community. And it sounds like you're really working in so many different ways to be able to provide that. And I love your heart is just shining in all of this, because really it's just so heart-centered. And like you said, you're really trying to remove as many barriers as possible for people to be able to access their healthiest healthy. And your book is another thing that I want to just highlight as a great resource, able to be purchased on Amazon, which is how I got it, I think, right? So, and I love
books are sold.
I absolutely love it. I think it's a great, great tool to have in your toolbox, if nothing else. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for being part of this community. And we welcome you and are so, so grateful to have all of your wisdom and experience, and most of all, to learn from your own health journey, and to show that it is never too late to reinvent yourself, and to allow yourself to go in the flow of where the universe is saying, we need you.
I can't even say anything better than that. So ditto, and thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you again. So much love to you. Peace and love to everybody here. And we look forward to the next time. Thanks, Samantha.
Thanks, everybody.